I'm here with Tera Warner, and we're excited to have this very organic conversation about what's working and what's not working in so many, particularly in women's lives, because you've devoted your career in the early stages more towards food and detox and wellness. I know that's where I first ran into you, is with the raw diva stuff years ago. Oh my gosh! Well, because so I started Yogi Detox in 2002. And teaching this more like home-based Ayurvedic, like detox made a little bit more innovative, and getting some of the Ayurveda yoga people who initially, I mean, basically for the last whatever 1,000 years are really not into raw food because of bacterial stuff. But that came to, India exported to US, or US imported this yoga culture and didn't understand a lot of the reasons people weren't eating living foods over in India. So I started really researching living foods and detox, and ran into Raw Diva and listened to a number of your earlier audio series. I mean, like years and years ago.
That's so cool.
It's really cool. It's fun how paths cross, and like just different ripenings here and there of like, oh wow, now we get to meet face to face.
It is neat how paths cross, and how did that come out right? Yeah. How paths cross. Yeah, I think I said paths cross. But yes, how paths cross and then come back up, like you don't really realize you're going to have to take responsibility for something, but then later it comes up again, and I like that. That's cool. So then, oh yeah, go ahead. You were telling me.
And so I'm curious too, because when we have these ripenings, right, whether it's in like, oh wow, this person's crossing my path right now, or whether it's in like this idea or this project, when you look back at your just evolution, career, family, life, you as a human being, like, do you see that there's like these natural streams that if you just follow like these streams and pay attention to them, they twist and turn into ways that...
Nope. I feel this. I feel that has been a consistent and persistent rise of awareness, responsibility, production. So like the reason I was kind of saying what I was saying is like, whoa, interesting. Now I have to take responsibility for whatever stupid crap I said 10 years ago that I don't even remember, because you heard me or listened to something I did at a time in my life where I know where I was relative to where I am now. But I certainly don't feel any kind of weaving, crisscrossing. I feel like I'm climbing one big ass mountain, and the view gets better the higher I go, but it's not always easy. But like, and you just you have to validate yourself for the journey you've done, but then you keep on looking and there's more to climb. That's really how I feel. And you, when you say that to me, it's like, hey, yeah, I crossed you when you were like really weak and scrawny 10 years ago. I'm like, oh God, did I say something stupid? Did I do something stupid that I should be taking responsibility for now? Yeah. All we're doing is trying, right? We're trying the best we can with what we have and we know to handle our relationships, to reach for our dreams and make them happen, to improve life and ourselves in the process. And I think one of the biggest barriers in that whole game is thinking that you already there too. One of the hugest ones I see is thinking that someone already has all the answers, right? Like deciding, well, like you've got all the data, instead of thinking maybe there's something I don't know. Because when you can keep a little bit curious about what you don't know, then you're still willing to look. As long as you think, oh gosh, there must be something wrong with me, or maybe I'm just, do you know what I mean? Like when you start to break yourself down, instead of think, what if I'm just missing information? Yeah. What if there's just something I don't know?
Yeah, and Ayurveda, it's interesting because it's the same energy of wind. It's the same energy of Vata or Vayu, which is wind. And if you turn it outward, it becomes curiosity, and if you turn it inward, it becomes fear or anxiety. And the essential anxiety is that like I'm not enough. They call that the closure of the heart, right? Where it's like it's a feeling that, and it creates a separation. I mean, ultimately between you and
life.
Well, consciousness. Yeah, that life, consciousness that forms life. Exactly.
Yeah, because that's what I see. It's like, if you're here and you're trying to handle and improve life and make it go better, and then you start to go into your head, you start to make yourself wrong, you start to think, oh, there's something wrong with me, or why can't I just do this? Or then you immediately stop facing and handling the thing you're supposed to solve, right? Because now all of your attention is inward. Like you were just, the way you were describing wind, like that was so good. But the only way, like, it's like you're climbing the mountain and all of a sudden you stop and you forget to look up and check out the view.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. But I was going to say that there were two things that are two of the biggest mistakes. And one was kind of like thinking that there's something wrong with you instead of continuing like that gentle wind of curiosity to just keep looking. And the other one I can't remember, but I bet I will before we finish.
I bet it'll circle on back.
Sure will.
So what have you found? So when you talked about, like, you know, what did my scrawny, the scrawny version of me say 10 years ago, and what you've climbed since then, like, what have been some of your crowning accomplishments, whether they feel it's an internal experience or an external thing? You know, that when you look back, you're like, yeah, like when I look at the view now, like, I'm glad that I got up here because these are the things that I broke through or did.
The work I did 10 years ago was definitely post breakthrough in many ways, right? Raw Divas was born it came right after a significantly, like, life altering, life crashing, life rocketing experience where I really felt like I have nothing to lose. And I didn't have any fear of loss because in a very short time before that, I'd lost a lot of things rapidly because of a health situation that happened. I lost my home, my business, my kids, like, paf. So I was coming out and I realized some of the ways that situation had come about. And that one of them really had to do for me with holding myself back to make other people comfortable. So then Raw Divas was like it was the online barfing of myself with a lot of just, like, when I look back at some of the things that I used to write, I'm like, what a bunch of self-indulgent crap. Like, I was just like, here's what I ate, and here's what I think, and here's what like, it was really just me putting myself out there, but there was enough of it that cared and knew how to help that it actually did something valuable. It wasn't just like, okay, everybody, here's what I ate. So the intention was always to help, but when I look at, like, how I was doing it, it was a little just like, right. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. So what's happened since then? So what now? When you're like, okay, that was beta or whatever, and then there's 1.0 and 2.0 version of you. Like, when are those versions?
Well, like, I think now that we're coming into a new one, so I love the idea that we kind of build life on layers, and maybe it's not true, but
I'll buy in, though.
Yeah, because it's just like, a lot of us can have these ideas. Like, I used to watch with fascination when I was really interested in diet and saving the planet and all this stuff, and I can even remember going back to my university days when I was a totally self-righteous vegan, and so my hatred caused more harm than any animals I saved, just because I was so right. I was so right, and everyone else was so wrong. But, so I feel like when I look back at some of those things, I used to look and think, why aren't people doing something? Like, why are there these obvious problems, but people aren't doing it? And then I would look more and more and realize, like, how can you ask people who don't know how to save their marriages or help their kids or stop themselves even from eating foods or drink or alcohol or drugs that they know are destructive? How can you ask people who are struggling to take responsibility for this much space to save the planet? Like, it just became so clear to me that people were struggling on a much more intimate and immediate level, and that asking them to save the planet when they were stuck in their own tailspin was unfair and unreasonable. So I stopped trying to save the planet, and I started to just try and understand what would it take to help just one woman improve her family. But then you see how fast that ripple moves, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it really became like, wow, because when I can get one woman to believe in herself again, like really believes in herself again, not just like, hey, hoorah, speech, I believe in myself for the next 20 minutes, but tomorrow I'm going to wake up and feel like crap again as soon as a pimple shows up on my face. Not that kind of confidence. Really like, no, I know who I am. I trust myself, and I know I can solve my problems and make life happen. And then you just see how paf, she handles her kids, and paf, she believes in her dreams. And she just starts to unlock everything around her. So I stopped needing to moved those big ones and started to come inside and see what it did. And once I had this level of confidence, because I remember, and there's a beautiful story about Sarah, there was a day where, because I was doing a lot of personal coaching and I was charging quite a lot of money because I had quite a lot of certainty and not a lot of time. But I knew that if I worked with someone, I knew that if I took someone, I knew I could help her. So I was charging quite a bit for my time.
Sure.
And I remember I had these little qualifiers, right? Like I can help anyone unless they've had electroconvulsive shock is what I would actually say. And then I really don't know what I could do because I don't know how much that would interfere with my ability to help
what kind of operating system they've got going on in terms of their baseline technology. Sure.
And then this one day, this beautiful Sarah reaches out to me and literally minutes before we're supposed, because I won't take money from someone I don't feel I can help.
Yeah.
And so I'd gotten the basic application and I'm like, great, let's take it on. And then minutes before I was supposed to pick up the phone, she sent me all this other information, 24 electroconvulsive shock treatments. And I was like, schmack. I don't know if I'm allowed to say any swear words, but dang it. This is the thing I said I couldn't solve. And the amount of, like, I was just like, listen, lady, if we get in the boat together, no one jumps ship until we make it to the other side. Like, if I take this on, I don't know. But I was like, if I invest my guts and everything I've got in you, then there's no exit, because she'd had multiple suicide attempts. And even my mentors and the people who had coached and trained me, they're like, Tera, don't touch that. And I was like, no way. For me as a person, I would rather sleep on a pillow knowing I did what I could. Yeah. If she did do something, I want to know at least I did what I could, than that I just didn't, that she harmed herself because I did nothing. So we had that conversation and I said, it's like, no, there is no exit door.
Right.
No, it's like a marriage, right?
Yeah.
That people don't even take marriage like they used to take marriage.
I know. It's all prenups. I know. Yeah, I know. Like people can't commit to anything. Yeah. I hear you. It was like
my spiritual 1930s marriage with her, and she knew it. She felt it because I was crying on the phone. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, and you've never seen a life turn around that fast. After 30 years of psychiatric treatments, 20 years of lots of different kinds of drugs, lists and lists, all of her doctors, all of her people, and I never touched the woman. I never changed anything that she ate. I never adjusted her food. I never changed her diet. It was nothing. It was by looking at incidents and things that had taken place in her life, agreements that she'd made, things that had happened, things she'd been told, and just untangling it. And within days, that person's life was totally different, and she's been rock solid stable. We handled weird PTSD stuff, all kinds of things, just because we peeled off the layers of crap and confusion and things she'd been told that she started to believe. We just peeled it all off and then got to something that made sense. And when we got to the right thing, it started to work. And now I've extended that answer so long, I don't even remember the question anymore.
Well, I do, but that's okay. So the sense of, of moving through our own levels and layers of development. So one of my curiosities, it seems like overall most sort of coaches and leaders in the transformational field are really trying to help people unravel their limited beliefs and really just trying to get their assumptions on the table, so that at least as people we can see our own assumptions and we can start to. And what I actually love is from like the software development community and lean startup in Silicon Valley is they actually have. In Lean Startup Method, they test their assumptions. They're constantly trying to actually, in software development, pull out their assumptions and test their assumptions. So this is happening on one side in terms of like how technology is being developed at the cutting edge. And then on the sort of like transformational self-help community, we have the same thing happening internally where we're trying to pull out some of our assumptions and pull out our beliefs and untangle the web and just see what we're actually operating on, so then we can decide, do I actually want to operate on those beliefs, on those assumptions, or do I want to start testing some of those to actually see if they're true or not? Yeah. So I guess where I want to go with this is what I notice is like the assumptions that I test and really evolve out of, limiting beliefs and whatnot that I evolve out of. I notice that like my kid doesn't get wrapped up in a lot of those.
That's
right?
Good.
So that they are coming in at more of a place where so many assumptions and beliefs are more or less learned by the community, the culture that we're steeping in, right? So as you've evolved, and like, how do you see that playing out in your kids, in your teens?
Well, do you believe that when you, like just the way you were talking about that now, because I did while you were saying that, I remembered the second thing that most people do as a mistake, which is really helpful because it kind of, it does. And the other thing was that the reason I was telling you that story I remembered, which was really to say that, because what you're talking about is, and I'm just going to now cross my other fingers, but the thing that you just asked me this question, like, how has it been with your kids? The thing is, I believe that when one person starts to take responsibility for something, then it just ripples right through life and it starts to change that thing in life. Like an example is I was working with a client and I was working with her and she was very reluctant. She didn't want to do these exercises that involved her looking at what she had done to cause harm to others. And while she was working on these exercises and taking responsibility for this, she got a knock on the door. And it was from her daughter's boyfriend, who he came to the door and he said, I've been walking outside for hours in the rain and I've just been trying to find a way to come to you and apologize for what I did to your family. But that's how I see life work. When you realize that if you realize that you are connected to life, then when you take responsibility for life, life changes. It has to work both ways. So for me, when you say you're testing your limiting beliefs and they're not being passed to your kids, I can tell you that I completely duplicated my mother's history to the letter. An early marriage, a daughter pregnancy, a son pregnancy, my husband left during the second pregnancy. Like to the letter, I completely duplicated the crazy of the past until I saw that I was duplicating it. And then it changed because I was like, oh, I've been reacting. I've just been responding to my quote unquote gut instinct. You can call it tuition, but sometimes it's so dang crazy. It makes you do weird stuff. I don't know if it can be necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
But once I saw that I was doing it, then I totally took a different direction. And my daughter, now preparing herself to be sexually active for the first time, is doing it in such a beautiful and empowering way. Can make me weep. And I said to her, Mika, you have to forgive me because I'm a little bit underslept, so I'll get emotional quickly. But I was like, I don't know what comes after that. Like, all I know what happens is when you walk into life a confused mess and you screw up left, right, and center, and then you get the balls to fix it, and then it gets good. I don't know what happens to someone who's so smart and so lucky that she just starts out right. Yeah. Right? And so she's just top of the world, but I really do think that that's part of why we do it. And I know you have some other great thing to say, but I want to
No, I don't. I'm good.
The second thing that I was going to say in the beginning, which is the biggest mistake people make, is not understanding that it takes the guts and love of two to pull one up out of the mud. It's like when you have a perfume on and you can't smell it anymore because it's been on you. If you could see the things that were a problem for you, like it wasn't until I'd already duplicated the same mess that I saw what I'd done. But now I'd lived it twice, right? Like I'd lived it as a kid and then I created it for my kids. And then I was like, okay, but that's the hammer on the head. Like that's a baseball bat. It shouldn't take that much to be able to spot things, right? But it's just to understand that it takes the love and livingness and courage and vitality of two people to pull one up out of the mud. The mud is thick and it is dark and it is heavy and you cannot see it when it's on your own back. You can't see it. I can't see my own back. And you could just touch it and see everything on it so easily. And that's how life is. We do need each other. And sometimes we get into these tough guy complexions or these I'll do it myself or there's something wrong with me, I have to figure it out, and it's all a hamster wheel of crazy. We need each other. You gotta ask, you gotta reach, you gotta be willing, and when we do that, life it gets so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, amen. It's like this idea. I mean, you can't see your own back. I mean, until we really we just can't see it. And why? I mean, it's been interesting with particularly with the yoga health coaching community I've developed is empowering the community by being like, hey guys. I mean, I'm the leader, right? They put me, because I started it, right? And I'm like, hey guys, like. And it is kind of like that with you and your daughter. It's like, it's not like that this is as far as I go, but this is as far as I go as like the solo leader. Right? Yeah. And now it's like, hey, what do you guys want to do now? You're all smart. You're all accomplished. Like you've all learned so many lessons. Like, how do you guys want this to go next? We start this more co-creative, collaborative leadership model for this community. And it's it's like 10 times more amazing because I'm not like the kingpin that everything needs to run through, where it's all based on my limitations as well as my gifts, right? So now when I take that out, I'm able to just give more or less my gifts. My limitations are no longer going to hold the community back. So my sense is there's this whole other thing going on as more and more of us wake up to the power of being like, hey, I'm not sure you see this on your back, but there's this thing here. Do you mind if I just like help you take that extra backpack off so you don't have to carry that around? Right?
Yes, or just exactly. And that it's really interesting because then that brings me back to the question you were asking, which was kind of like, how do things evolve and stuff? And, beta version and version 2. The beta version 2 or whatever the version 2 is starting now. For me, I understood a lot about what it took to fix myself. And then I understood what it took to help one person. And then I had to figure out, now how do you build a family and make it work? Because that is something that's just like they're falling around left, right, and center. And you can pick one person up. But even Buddha, like no offense to Buddha because I think he's totally awesome, but the dude figured it all out sitting under a tree. He left the wife, he left the high power position, like he left the material stuff. Yeah. So how's like the average dude supposed to do it while he's got a wife screaming at him, kids crying, and money to pull in? So it's like, it's just, the truth is that everything feels easier when we're alone. Yeah. But the actual truth is that we need each other to get through it. So really all my attention has been going into how do you bring, and after a divorce, and now my partner and I, we have 2 divorces and our sort of reconstituted family. And it's been so, you were talking about sparky in the beginning. It's like, it's been so flamey that I'm like, oh man, if I can solve this, I can solve anything. So now for me to build a business again, which is what I'm doing again, it has to be something that has other people's backs in a bigger way. It's not just, I'm not going to build a business that is just about me putting out my ideas so that I can do my thing. If it isn't, as soon as I put it out, if it isn't already helping somebody else make money and survive as well, I'm not going to do it. And well. Yeah. So that's how I'm like, I really feel like version 2 is kind of coming out where I see so much more, I understand so much better how much people actually have on their weight, how much, like, just when I think of how I develop programs, the new skin program that I'm putting out now, it's like I put so much time into it so that it would take people watching it no time at all to see it, right? Yeah. Because I understand so much better now how overwhelmed people really are and how clear and easy and helpful things need to be, not because we are wrong, not because we are stupid, because we are overwhelmed and life is going in a crazy spin and we need something clear to hold on to, someone to trust that helps get a clear message across. Ha! Look at us coming around full
Bam!
circle.
Articulate. Nailed it. I mean, it to me, it's interesting how it's so the name of the game. It's like when writing a book with the writing part's easy, the editing part's hard because you're trying to make it more and more digestible for the person who's absorbing, who's reading, right? And it's like the stakes are so much higher now than they've ever been due to just the simple amount of data overload everyone's got. We're dealing with more or less like fried nervous systems as more, even our kids, like they find like the average child now is getting like a third less sleep. I mean, it's petrifying how, just disturbing the amount of sleep deprivation there is on all levels in our culture. We know sleep deprivation is linked to a growing waistline because of the hormone secretions, et cetera, that are associated with being sleep deprived. Your body will not let go of stuff. It's in survival mode, right? And so we get this and we get that like, wow, if we're going to help someone, like some of the assumptions here now that we have tested are like people are totally overwhelmed. And so if we don't go through that pre-digestion process of like, how easy can we make it? And can we test it and see like, hey, does this actually work? What are you able to do? What are you not able to do? What overwhelms you in this situation? Okay, let me take that part out, because chances are you don't need that yet. That's just going to make you feel less confident than my bad. Back to the drawing board. And
because when you're trying to help people, like I think I had a false assumption once I created a business. I thought other people would be able to just kind of leverage what I'd already done and do the same thing. But it's really hard to help people if you can't honestly see where they're at. And it's very easy because everyone puts on social veneer. Social veneer is really those layers of how we think we're supposed to look, what we think we're supposed to say, how we think we're supposed to sound. And those layers
project confidence.
They're so thick. Or smother people with admiration, right? But you have to be able to honestly observe how able are people. Because I used to get quite distracted by the fact that I would get all these letters of admiration from all these people who said they wanted to be such a big part of the business or do this and that. But then I would see that their actual ability to get things done.
Yeah.
And my ability to get them to get things done, because just delegating something didn't mean it got done.
Right.
So, but you see it and that's one of the things, is just in order to be able to help someone, you have to honestly see where they're at and their honest abilities, and allow those abilities or fears, anxieties, confusions, whatever, be there and help them through them to honestly help them. Yeah. But failure to do that, you pummel people with more information than they can handle, and then they just feel broken and incompetent because they didn't do it, right?
Right, yeah. It's like you're giving them 10 steps ahead when they really need the next baby step, because that's and that's true for all of us. I know that's true for me. And like my next, I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going, and if I can just take this next step, and because it's so easy to get dismayed and overwhelmed. And so many, I find, we just ran this whole Awaken Your Dream sequence and had all these Awaken Your Dream coaching calls with the tribe, and it was amazing. And my coaches who are doing these calls are like, oh my gosh, so many people have given up on their dreams. Like that was the number one feedback I got from my team doing these coaching sessions. Is like we've given up. And my sense is like the reason we've given up is because we just don't have really the operating manual to break it down into the smaller pieces, and we don't have the coaches and mentors that have actually can see just exactly what you're saying, exactly where we're at, what the next step forward is, and how not to kind of get tripped up on the way there by thinking about the step that's 10 steps forward that we're not ready yet.
And a lot of times our attention, even unknowingly, is tied to past failures. So even just earlier when you saw me talking about Mika, and you'll see me, if I keep doing it, I'll get emotional again, because I have so much loss in the area of sex and relationships and marriage, right? So it's like it pulls my strings because I have failures. I remember being 3 years old, reading Cinderella and thinking, I want that. And at 4 years old, my parents divorced. And then it was just one kind of confusing and dysfunctional experience after another that I then exactly duplicated in my own life. So when sometimes we lose our dreams because we just keep tripping and falling in the same spot, and it's so easy to then say, well, there's something wrong with me, and then we keep tripping and we keep tripping, right? Which was the first mistake I said people make, instead of realizing like, oh, well, no, it's nothing wrong with you, honey. There's like something here on the sidewalk that keeps tripping you. And so then you move it and you're like, oh my God, so it's not even me. No, it's not you. There was just something on the sidewalk. And you're like, okay. And then the other one is not knowing that you need help, because without that other person, you never would have seen it. It was out of your viewpoint. You couldn't have seen that there was just a little thing tripping you. So that's it. It's like we lose hope in our dreams because one, we keep breaking ourselves down and telling ourselves that there's something wrong with us, so we don't see the real problem, which there's just something in the sidewalk. But from your viewpoint, you can't see it because you need someone else to be able to say, oh, no, it's just right here. And I think life, especially with this, like we were talking about electronics and things like this, we just have excessive communication coming in, and it's actually adding confusion. Whereas back in the old farming days, where people had to get out a shovel and dig a ditch or go work in the mines, they were looking life in the eyes. They had to run from bears and hang out the laundry, and that kept people a little more looking. They had a better chance of seeing, oh, there's something on the sidewalk, instead of all this, like, we're just kind of spinning in our heads.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's really true. It's like if there's notifications going off on your phone that are constantly pulling your attention away, right? And people can't even drive now without getting interrupted by their phone, right? Or choosing to be interrupted by their phone. Yeah, so it is. I mean, I was talking with Rod Stryker last week, who's this incredible yogi master, right? And he was saying, like, he's like, my next whole level is bringing people into, like, basically helping people repair their nervous systems from this hyperstimulation, because we can't do the deeper practices until we deal with, like, repairing what's broken. And that really hit me of, like, right, like, for some of us who have super solid routines, who are thriving, who've automated body habits that, that don't have all this neural disruption stuff in them, like, we can forget that the reason that a lot of the people that we're trying to help are overwhelmed or overloaded or anxious or have insomnia or have an autoimmune disorder or right on and on and on and on is because at this, like, core level, there's just too much of the wrong data coming in. And there's not enough of just the sunrise and the sunset and the rhythm of physical work and go ahead.
Yeah, and it really is a vicious cycle, right? Because the truth is that they're probably, part of the reason they're on their phone is because they're stressed, because there's something in life that they don't know how to handle. So the truth is, chances are good she's probably trying to get help, but because she's stressed, because she doesn't quite know what to do about her kids, and that is the real thing suppressing her immune system. But then she goes into an environment that is keeping her in a tailspin, and so it's really hard to solve solutions to the problems. But there are things in her immediate environment, children, employers, employees, people that she's not knowing how to confront and handle, that's causing stress, that's bringing the system down. Because I've seen the healthiest eaters die of cancer, the perfect healthy profiles. One of my favorite people to listen and talk to, I don't know if you've ever interviewed her, Anita Morjani. She's so much fun. And I remember asking her, because she almost died. She was like seconds away from being diagnosed dead, or pronounced dead, not diagnosed dead. I diagnosed you dead. And I asked her, like, okay, so what was the biggest difference between before and after? And she says, before I always used to worry about what I ate and the things I did and what I put on my body. And now I don't. I worry less, I do less, and I'm so healthy. So you can't underestimate because even they say that it's the CC, what is it? The Center for Disease Control says that something like 90% of all medical visits are stress related. Stress is that pushing down. It's something you don't know how to solve. It's like because if you can solve it, it's not that stressful, right? You know how to cut your hair, you know how to cook yourself a meal. So the stuff you already know how to solve, that's not stress. Stress is, I don't know what to do about this person, this situation. And that's when people are looking and trying to find solutions, and it takes them on a spin instead of, well, go look at the sidewalk. What do you see? Go look at your husband. What do you notice about him? Go look at your child. Is he tired? Is he getting sleep? Like that's really it. It's like, so much of what we have to do, exactly like this person that you're talking about, is really getting back to the observation in our direct environment with the people we love, care for, and are responsible for. So we can see, oh, there's something on the sidewalk. And all this time, I've been reading books about how to fix myself. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And just that, I mean, and just like with the woman who is, I love that, diagnosed dead. But that sense of like, the feeling of like, I'm not supported, I'm living in fear, and therefore have to like choose the right things that are for me, versus the experience of like, I'm part of the universe is inherently supportive, life is inherently supportive. I can relax and connect, and then I can connect with the people around me, and then, I actually then can receive, right? I can receive whenever they're saying about me without needing to protect myself. right? Because I'm coming from the experience of like, hey, like I'm part of the universe. The universe is naturally supportive. If someone can help see something in me like that, like great, I can use it or not use it. Maybe it'll be useful, right? And just like shifts that into, oh, okay, like this is, it really is. It's like a different way of. It's a totally different operating system.
But even though everybody says the universe is my friend and blah blah blah, when it's coming at you in the form of a screaming husband, or it's coming at you in the form of a non-compliant teenager, or when it's coming at you in the form of like a really low bank account, it doesn't feel very friendly. So sometimes you still have to have the ability to just, when it is not uncomfortable, because it's really hard to say if something that feels like it's falling apart is your friend. Sometimes you just have to be able to face it and look at it. And I think that is part of what our excessive immediate communication distraction thing is preventing us from doing, which is being there and comfortably facing things, because you can't solve anything you can't look at, right?
Yeah, agreed.
And that is really like, sometimes nobody said that mount climbing a mountain is not always comfortable, but the view is good. You have to be willing to sit and comfortably face even when it isn't, and then it's you, because you're willing to face it, you'll see something you didn't see before, then your perception changes. But so much of it just has to do with, and that's the basis of most meditations, starts with being there, right?
Absolutely. And tapping into the essence of being. I mean, and that's where I was going with that. It's not the universe is your friend. Like you are the universe. Like you are the universe. Sure. Like you are the field of support. So it's like when we're meditating, it's like that tapping into like, oh, this is what intrinsic support actually feels like. And then when we're coming from there, it's so much easier to mentor. It's so much easier to be mentored. It's so much easier to separate the personal from the non-personal and realize like, oh, I don't have to spin this yarn about the personal because I don't even know what the personal is anymore, because it's now not a noun. It's now not a stuck place. It's a verb. Like, and who, just like you started off, like who I was 10 years ago, right? Is it's so different than who I am today. And that to me is like so much of it. Yeah.
No, keep going.
Well, so much of it is helping people to get, what I call identity evolution is a sense of like who you are is so vibrant, is so pulsating, is so ever evolving. And if you can just allow that, so you don't have to be who you were yesterday. You don't have to be like, I don't have to be who I was when I started the Yoga Detox in 2002. Like, hell no. Oh my gosh. Like that person did not know very much. She knew what her teachers taught her, and she could talk about that, right? But it wasn't from this like very digested, real living experience.
Personal experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we can get that, and if we can then allow that in each other, this to me has helped so much with the relationship evolution with time, is just like allowing us all the freedom of change, allowing us to not hold each other to who we were yesterday, right? But to say like, who are you wanting to become today? How do we want this to go down next? And to me, that's like one of my favorite questions, both with my family, with my business team, with the people I coach, the communities. It's like, who do we want to become next? This whole thing's plastic. Like where do we want to go together?
Yeah. Yeah. And when you have that idea, it's so easy to also lose some of the stress about the future, to be like, well, I don't know what's going to happen then, but I know that who I'll be when that time comes will be the person to handle it. I don't have to handle it right this second, because tomorrow I will be a different person again,
Yeah. Awesome.
So good.
So
Ninja!
We did
Do you know that song? I was going to say, do you know that song, You Are the Universe, by the Brand New Heavies?
No, I'll put it in the show notes, though. I'm going to put the Spotify link.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, you'll just dance to it all afternoon. This 6'4" dude that used to smoke electric cigarettes that I dated, and he drove around a Mustang convertible, singing "You Are the Universe" all the time. So it's totally like, you'll love that song. It's a perfect grand finale to our high-powered, authentic interview.
Awesome. So let's keep in touch, and let me know whenever you want to borrow the platform. Let me know and come on back, and we'll pick up the conversation.
Sounds good, and I may do the same and invite you to my platform when I get that platform back up and all sparkly again.
Woohoo!
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Kay. It's great